Hey gang, I'm actually just recording this because I wanted to take a look at how this works on the platform when we have a order that's getting close to possibly being triggered. So notice that we are within 10 pips of both the orders. It's about 4.5 pips on the 1 lot entry and about 9 pips from the 3 lot entry on the Aussie yen. You can see here, and you'll notice that as it starts to approach, it'll alert you by lighting up. So you kind of get an idea that, hey, we're getting close, and if at that point you want to start thinking about looking at the underlying environment, are we looking at the market closing, or are we looking at a market opening? Are we looking at an economic report coming out, things of that nature? Right now, those aren't necessarily a factor. In fact, it's 5:26 p.m. We're close to an hour after the Wall Street close. We're not quite into the Asian Open. This was one of the 2 yen entries that I mentioned that, go ahead if you want to get out on. Go ahead and place your stops in such a way that if you want to be flat by the time that the monetary policy minutes and overnight rate call and then the Bank of Japan press conference are out, you can be ready. Okay, so you can see here, we're just kind of flirting with these levels. Now, at some point, if you say, you know what, enough's enough, if this is where the market's exhausting, so be it, I won't be piggy, and that's fine. Let me show you how the 5-minute chart is behaving, and you can see here, again, we're just flirting with that level right here. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Raghee, wait a minute, and this is what I wanted to point out. Some of you might be saying, Raghee, wait a minute, how come we're below the 1 order and we're not out yet? What's going on? Notice that the price says 78.33. Price here is 78.27. Now, let me go ahead and add, and this is the part of trading that are not enough educators, and I'll consider myself, an educator / trader who's guilty of it too. This is where not enough of us are showing you the kind of quirky nature in which a market that you cannot direct your order flow works. The behavior can be kind of unusual. Here's the situation. So notice here, in terms of where the Aussie yen is trading, it's 27 by 33. So it's a 5 pip spread. If I want to buy, it's going to go off at, you can see that here, the higher of the 2 prices. If I'm going to sell, it's going to go off at the lower. So I'm paying the spread. I'm selling at the bid. I'm buying at the offer. So you don't get to direct your own order flow. So if I want to see my order get filled, what actually has to happen? Notice I have a take profit at 25 and 30, right? Some of you going, well, what about the take profit at 30? How come it hasn't been hit? I need to buy back my short. I need to buy back my short at what price? At 30. We're getting awful close here, but this blue price has to get down to 30. And boom, there it is. I got my 30 fill. What about the 25? The sell is at 25, yes. But I need my bid. This is where I'm going to get my fill. If it moves down to 25, this blue line, then I will get my sell triggered at 25. So I'm about 4.6 pips away from that right now. You see that? So that's how that works. Now, for some of you saying, Raghee, you're 5 pips away, go ahead and realize the remainder of your, that's obviously part of, certainly it. But, I had these prices in here for a reason. And I will go ahead and, let the trade move along. If suddenly I see something very erratic occurring, great, but we seem to be sinking. This seems to be an environment where the yen is continuing to gain. Notice here, I have 23 by 28, right? My 25 is not going to get filled until we're essentially, this is a 4.5, 5 pip spread. I'm not going to see my fill until we're 78.20 by 78.25. Okay? This blue line has to hit 25. We're getting awful close. Okay, so we're sinking down ever so steadily. But that's the way that works. So for those of you that are kind of confused as to what the heck's going on, I had my order there. I could see a high or a low printed, but you got to see if it was the bid or the ad. Now, most charts are bid charts. What you see on here is a bid. If you're curious, you can see here. If you're curious how your chart is graphed, what is this price? 78.23. That doesn't mean anything, right? Who's triggering 78.23 off or 78.22? Who's getting that? Well, notice here, that is actually, as you know here, okay, that's what's being represented. See that? So that gives you a good idea. We're sinking ever so slowly, 23 by 27. Again, remember, I'm likely going to need 20 by 24, 20 by 25 20 by 25 and I'll be triggered. Okay, so just a few more pips and I might get it. And that's what we're waiting on. So I wanted you guys to see how that looks. You got to see one part of the entry, the aggro, actually get taken off the table. Now we're waiting for the conservative. But I wanted you to see how that works. Okay? Quite frankly, if I wanted to just go ahead and get out now, I could do that too. We're very, very close. But if I wasn't here and didn't have the luxury of watching this order would be waiting. But I want you to understand how this works. Okay? All right, hopefully that was helpful. Just want to give you a little insight into that Aussie yen. We got very, very close. We're not really near the euro yen here. The euro yen might be one that as we approach the Asian session, I'll see how the price action is behaving around 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern when the Asian session is a little bit more underway. And at that point, if I determine I'm not comfortable, I'll go ahead and get out. It's 2 lots. Okay? My profit targets, by the way, that we outlined in the midday update in my Aussie Canada. You notice that I'm out. So this is all that I've got remaining right now. This is all that's left of my position from all those trades that we had in the morning and from last night's update. All right? So, again, inching ever so close. Ever so close. So, that's the situation. I might go ahead and get out of the euro yen before the BOJ events, though, or I should say the monetary policy statement. I may not want to sit through that. The euro pound, I've got no problem sitting through that, though. And as you can see here, these are still, I've got take profits here at 50 and 20. 8005 and 80020. So I'm 26 pips away from my closest. Okay, as you can see here. Now notice, bouncing a little bit, that's fine. You can live and die by these ticks. All of a sudden, you're just living and dying with every little tick. That is not the point here. The reason I wanted to show this to you, and I don't keep this up normally, I just wanted to show you the behavior in which orders are executed in the forex market is a little bit different than the way the price movement and order is executed in futures or in forex. And I just wanted you to see that. I don't want you keeping this up. I don't want you living and dying with, all these little ticks. That's not the point whatsoever. But hopefully you got the point. If you have any questions, let me know. Leave a comment here under the post. I'll see you either in the chat room or the next update.